Okay, right. You all know what that was. That was, of course, Jingle Bells. And Jingle Bells was written in 1857, so it's a Victorian tune written by an American, James Pierpont, and he actually wrote it as a drinking song. But it very quickly became adopted as a seasonal song. And in fact, it was the first Christmas record ever, because in 1889 it was recorded on an Edison cylinder and sold lots of copies of that then. So eat your heart out, Cliff Richard. James Pierpont got there first with a Christmas record in 1889. Okay, that's the tune, and it is a Christmas one now, always associated with Christmas. But I'm going to sing you some songs. They're not really associated with Christmas, but they're all Victorian, and they all come from that era. And the Victorians really had two sources of songs. There were those that were posh and published with the music and circulated around the drawing rooms and sung by ladies after dinner. And there were those that were mostly not published and circulated around the alehouses and the pleasure gardens. And this first song is one of those. It was actually first written down in 1880 by Sabine Baring Gould, who collected it from an old man then. So it was around for a long time in Victorian times. And it was one of those that people didn't write the words down to, and you'll probably see why. Come all you jovial fellows, listen to my song. It is a little ditty and it won't detain you long. It's of a fair young damsel, she lived down in Kent. She woke one summer's morning and she a-nutting went. With me, whack, fold, all to me, fold, all roll. Oh, whack, fold, a dear old day. Oh, what few nuts that poor girl had, she threw them all away. And it's of a brisk young farmer who was ploughing off his land. He called unto his horses and he boldly bade them stand. As he sat there upon his plough, all for a song to sing, his voice was so melodious, it made the valleys ring. With me, whack, fold, all to me, fold, all roll. Oh, whack, fold, the dear old day. What few nuts that poor girl had, she threw them all away. And it's of a fair young damsel who was nutting in the wood. His voice was so melodious, it charmed her as she stood. And in that lonely wood she could no longer stay. And what few nuts that poor girl had, she threw them all away. With me, whack, fold, all to me, fold, all roll. Oh, whack, fold, the dear old day. Oh, what few nuts that poor girl had, she threw them all away. She came up to young Johnny as he sat on his plough. She said, young man, I really feel I cannot tell you how. So she took him to a shady grove, there he laid her down. Said she, young man, I think I feel the world go round and round. With me, whack, fold, all to me, fold, all roll. Oh, whack, fold, the dear old day. What few nuts that poor girl had, she threw them all away. He went back to his horses to finish off his song. He said, my pretty fair maid, your mother will think you long. But she threw her arms around his neck as they rode o'er the plain. She said, young man, I'd like to feel the world go round again. With me, whack, fold, all to me, fold, all roll. Oh, whack, fold, the dear old day. What few nuts that poor girl had, she threw them all away. So come all you local women, take warning by my song. If you should a nutting go, then don't stay out too long. If you should stay too late and hear the ploughboy sing, then you might have a young farmer to raise up in the spring. With me, whack, fold, all to me, fold, all roll. Oh, whack, fold the dear old day. Oh, what few nuts that poor girl had, she threw them all away. Right, continuing in the Victorian theme, this is a Victorian concertina. It was made in about 1890 by the firm Charles Wheatstone and Company. And Wheatstone was a very famous inventor, mostly of electrical items, but also of mechanical ones and musical ones. And he did the musical ones because his family ran a musical instrument business, so he had a ready outlet for his products there. So this is the Wheatstone concertina. Anyway, that by the by. Okay, so that was a tune from the vernacular, from the street, and from the alehouse. My next song is one that was actually written down in about 1850, but it refers to, well, it was written down a little bit before that, but it was noted, first recorded in 1850, and it was written down. It was written down following a battle. It was a battle over the French. We love battles over the French. What happened was a mail packet, the Princess Royal, set out from Falmouth to go to Newfoundland, and it was attacked by a French privateer, which was flying English colours. And although the mail ship was a lot smaller than the privateer, it outgunned the privateer. It managed to shoot it out and damaged it severely. And the privateer ran away all the way back to Bordeaux for repairs. And the English ship went on to Newfoundland and then eventually came back to the British Isles again. And of course, when it got back, there was great celebration because we always celebrate victories over the French, whether it's at sea or on land or at rugby. We love it. So here we go. This is the story of the bold Princess Royal. On the 14th of February we sailed from the land, on the bold Princess Royal bound for Newfoundland. With 40 brave sailors in our ship's company, boldly from the eastward to the westward sailed we. We'd not been a-sailing but 2 days or 3, when a man in our rigging strange sails he did see. She came bearing down on us to see what we were, under her mizzen false colours she wore. Lord, cried our captain, what shall we do now? Here comes a bold pirate to rob us, I know. Oh no, said the first mate, that will not be so. We'll shake out a reef, boys, and from her we'll go. At length that bold pirate he drew alongside, with a loud speaking trumpet, whence came you, he cried. Our captain was half boys, and he answered him so. Come from fair London, and we're bound for Cairo. Then lower your mainsail and heave your ship to. I've got some letters to send home by you. Well, I'll lower my mainsail and I'll heave my ship to, when I'm safe in a harbour not alongside of you. The Chased us to the eastward all that livelong day. Chased her to the westward, but he couldn't make no way. Fired shots after, but none could prevail. And the bold Princess Royal, she showed him her tail. Lord, cried our captain, what shall we do now? Go down to your grog, boys, and go down to your grog, boys, and be of good cheer. Whilst we have sea room, brave boys, never fear. Right, that's the Bold Princess Royal. And I finished that off with a Morris dance, which is called the Bold Princess Royal, which is completely unrelated to it, nothing to do with it at all, other than it shares the name. But I like the tune. Okay, right. A lot of the songs in the Victorian era were distributed to the general public by means of broadsheets, penny broadsheets that were sold in the street. And one of the most famous printers of those in Victorian times was James Katnack. He had a bit of a checkered history because his parents ran a printing business and it went bust. Just at the end of the Georgian era, the printing business went bust. So James Katnack thought of a good idea, which the News of the World and other papers have repeated time and time again now. And he made up a story. He made up a story about a butcher in Seven Dials who captured small boys, cut them up and sold them in the shop as pork. It was completely fictitious, but the story sold hundreds and hundreds of copies of his broadsheet, and he rescued the company. He went to prison for a little while for that, when they sued him, but he came out and he published lots more broadsheets, and this is one of the most famous of them, and it's a story of an execution that took place in Bury St Edmunds. The execution was watched by 20,000 people, and I bet they all bought a copy of the broadsheet. There was no television, so public executions were great entertainment then. And in actual fact, it's reckoned that James Katnack sold more than 1 million copies of this song. It didn't have a tune then, they never did have tunes, but this was a tune that was often used for it. And this is the story of the murder in the as it written out as a confession of the murderer. Oh, come all you jovial young men, a warning take from me. Remember my unfortunate fate, to be hung upon a tree. Oh, my name is William Corder, to you I do declare. I murdered Maria Martin, she was beautiful and fair. I promised that I'd marry her upon a certain day, but instead of that I was resolved to take her life away. So I went to her father's house on the 18th day of May, and I said, my dear Maria, we must fix our wedding day. If you'll meet me at the Red Barn, as sure as I have life, I'll take you to fair Ipswich town, and there make you my wife. But I went home and I fetched my gun, my pickaxe and my spade, and I went down to the Red Barn, there I dug her grave. With a heart so light, she thought no harm, to meet me she did go. I murdered her all in the barn, I laid her body low. And when the terrible deed was done, she lay there in her gore. Her broken, bleeding body I buried 'neath the red barn floor. Now all things being silent, her spirit it could not rest. She appeared unto her mother, who had suckled her at her breast. Now her mother's heart was sore disturbed, she dreamed a dream when she saw her daughter lying dead 'neath the red barn floor. So she sent the father to the barn, he in the ground did thrust, and he found his daughter's body mingling with the dust. Oh, my trial was hard, I could not stand, how terrible was the sight of her jawbone when it was brought to prove, it pierced my heart quite. And her aged father standing by, likewise his ancient wife. In grief and pain they tore their hair, they scarcely could cling to life. So now, my friends, adieu, adieu, my race has almost run. Monday next will be my last, I am to be hung. So all you young men who pass by, with pity look on me. For the murdering of Maria Martin, I must hang on the gallows tree. I was going to say I promised to be a little more cheerful, but there's a double execution in this song as well. This was published as a broadsheet in 1850, and again, these are very popular themes, I think, with Victorians. Nice bit of murder and mayhem. It's of a pretty sailor boy who's lately come from sea, dressed himself in tarry clothes like one in poverty, dressed himself in tarry clothes though he had been well paid, for to try the heart of Mary and the cruel Lowland Maid. As Mary was a-standing beside her cottage door, she looked upon the sailor who looked so very poor. She looked just like a goddess in jewels rich arrayed, but the thorn was in the bosom of the cruel Lowland Maid. Good morning, pretty Mary, I'm glad to see you here. I fear your inclination is no longer for me clear. I fear your inclination is on some other state. Oh, be gone from me, said Mary and the cruel Lowland Maid. As Jimmy was a-leaving, he turned and said, behold, from his trouser pocket pulled a bag of glittering gold. Forgive me now, said Mary, and forget just what I said. You're welcome to my cottage, said the cruel Lowland Maid. Remember, cruel damsel, the last words that you spake. I can lie till morning in some farmer's barn or shed. At the hour of 12 o'clock, Mary Ann did stray, and she told another lover where the sailor boy did lay. They rode with their dark daggers and their lanterns in their hands, They rode through moor and country, past the muddy land. Have courage now, dear lover, never me betray. We must kill and rob the sailor boy before the break of day. They then both plunged their daggers into the sailor deep, robbed him of his glittering gold, left him there to sleep. But a gamekeeper was watching them, from his wood he strayed, and he swore against the villain and the cruel Lowland maid. And so they both were taken, and they were condemned and cast upon the cruel gallows tree to be hung at last. And as they hung high in the air, the people they did say, for the murdering of the sailor hangs the cruel Lowland maid. This is another song. This was a popular song in East Anglia, again, it wasn't written down until quite late on, but it was around all through the Victorian era, and nobody gets actually hurt in this, apart from their feelings, maybe. In Manchester City, at the sign of the plough, there lives a mole catcher, I cannot tell how. He goes a mole catching from morning till night, while a jolly young farmer comes and plays with his wife, singing mole catcher's trap, never get caught in the mole catcher's trap. Now the mole catcher's jealous of this very same thing, so he hides in the outhouse to watch him come in. And when that young farmer comes over the stile, he calls the mole catcher to laugh and to smile, singing mole catcher's trap, never get caught in the mole catcher's trap. Well, he goes to the door, and this he did say, where is your husband, good woman, I pray? He's gone a mole catching, you need not fear. She didn't know the mole catcher was dear, singing mole catcher's trap, never get caught in the mole catcher's trap. She went up the stairs and she gave him the sign. The mole catcher followed them close up behind. And when that young farmer was in the midst of his frolics, the mole catcher catches him tight by the coat, singing mole catcher's trap, never get caught in the mole catcher's trap. Well, he claps his hands and he says to his wife, this is the best mole I've caught in my life, but you will pay dearly for ploughing my ground. The cost it shall be no less than £10, singing mole catcher's trap, never get caught in the mole catcher's trap. Well, the farmer, he said, the money I don't mind, it works out at less than twopence a time. So all you young farmers, whatever you're at, never get caught in the mole catcher's trap, singing mole catcher's trap, never get caught in the mole catcher's trap. Right, just need to change my capo on my dulcimer for this one. I'm never quite sure what it does, but it works. Right, this is a very old song. I'm going to finish off now with a Christmas song. So this is the Huron Indian Carol, which was written in about 1640 something or other, but has been known all that time, all these times, and was translated into English It was written in the language of the Huron Indians originally to teach them the story of Christmas by a very well-meaning Jesuit missionary. But it's a pretty little song anyway. Uses all the sort of Indian imagery in it. 'Twas in the moon of winter time, when all the birds had fled, that mighty Gitche Manitou sent angel choirs instead. Before their night the stars grew dim, wandering hunters heard their hymn. Jesus your King is born, Jesus is born, in excelsis Gloria. Within a lodge of broken bark the tender babe was found. A ragged robe of rabbit skin enwrapped his beauty round. The chiefs from far before him knelt, with gifts of fur and beaver pelts. Jesus your King is born, Jesus is born, in excelsis Gloria. O children of the forest tree, O sons of Manitou, the holy babe of earth and heaven is born this day for you. Come kneel before the radiant boy, who brings you comfort, peace and joy. Jesus your King is born, Jesus is born, in excelsis Gloria. Right. Thank you very much for letting me sing to you. I'm going to sit back now with a glass of wine and enjoy the rest of the evening with you all. So thank you ever so much.